All right, let's dive right in. We're constantly being hit with these doomsday scenarios, right? Climate change, pandemics, nuclear war, and we're told we have to sacrifice and submit to, save the world. But here's a thought. What if the people pushing these stories have absolutely no intention of going down with the ship? Today, we're going to dig into a really radical theory that while we're all being kept in a state of panic up here on the surface, a whole other world is being built literally right under our feet. This one sentence from the source material, man, it's really the heart of this whole thing. The idea is that these apocalyptic scenarios aren't just threats to be avoided, they're a kind of cover story, a controlled demolition of our world, designed to clear the board for whatever's next, while the architects watch it all happen safely from below. And this is what they're allegedly building, a breakaway civilization. Now, we're not just talking about a few bunkers for billionaires. No, the theory says this is a global, interconnected network of totally self-sustaining underground cities. They're often called D.U.M.s, that's for deep underground military bases, and they're supposedly filled with technology that's light years ahead of what we have, all designed to just wait out a planetary reset and then emerge to rule whatever's left. So, how on earth would you even begin to prove something so huge and so secret? Well, like any investigation, you start by following the money. And that brings us to the first part of our audit, the architecture of abandonment. It's the first question you have to ask, right? I mean, a project on this scale, building hundreds of underground cities, it would cost an amount of money that's just unimaginable. You couldn't fund that through any normal taxes that people can track. So, where would that kind of cash come from? The source material points to this very specific number, $2.3 trillion, a figure so huge it's almost hard to even wrap your head around. But it doesn't come from some anonymous forum post. Nope, it has a very specific and very public origin. And here it is. This is a key piece of evidence for the whole theory. On September 10th, 2001, literally the day before the 9/11 attacks, the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, went on record and admitted the Pentagon just couldn't account for $2.3 trillion. The source material highlights the incredible timing here, pointing out that the very next day, the section of the Pentagon that got hit was precisely where the accountants investigating that missing money were. So this is supposedly how it works. A black budget, not just some classified program, but a whole parallel economy, a river of dark money flowing from places in the Pentagon books that can't be audited. Now, is it a massive leap to connect that missing money directly to this project? Of course it is. But for people who believe this theory, a multi-trillion-dollar black hole in the defense budget is the only place you could find the kind of seed money you'd need for a secret civilization. Okay, so let's say you have the money, a blank check. You still have this massive logistical problem. How do you build a secret underground empire without anyone noticing the millions and millions of tons of rock and dirt being hauled away? You just can't hide that many dump trucks. Well, the answer, according to these sources, lies in a piece of technology. And it's so brilliant and so terrifying, it sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie. But the proof of its existence is just sitting there, filed away in the public record. Just take a look at this. These aren't theories or rumors. These are actual U.S. patents, filed back in 1972 by scientists at Los Alamos, the birthplace of the atomic bomb. They literally describe a method for tunneling, not by drilling, but by melting. And they called the device the Subterrane. And this is the machine, the Nuclear Subterrene. See, it's not a normal drill with teeth that grind up rock. It's a cone-shaped machine with a superheated tungsten tip, and it's powered by its own nuclear reactor. It doesn't excavate rock, it pretty much vaporizes it. So here's how this incredible process supposedly works. It's basically a four-step cycle. First, the nuclear reactor heats the tip up to an insane temperature, over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Second, that tip just melts the solid bedrock in front of it into magma. Third, the machine pushes that molten rock out to the sides. And fourth, this is the crazy part, that magma cools almost instantly, hardening into a perfectly smooth, super strong glass-like tunnel wall. And this table just perfectly shows why this technology would be the absolute key. It solves the two biggest problems of secret underground construction in one elegant move. There's zero debris to haul away because the rock becomes the tunnel wall. And you don't need any concrete reinforcement because it creates its own super-hardened glass lining. It would let you build a huge network, silently, quickly, and completely invisibly. So if you've got the money and the tech,
where do you hide the front doors to this secret subterranean world? Well, according to the sources, you hide them in plain sight. The main hubs or nodes of this network are allegedly hidden in some very, very public places.
This theory focuses on two key locations. First, you've got the Denver International Airport, DIA, which is described as a main logistical hub, kind of like an entrance ramp onto this underground highway system. Then you've got the Svalbard Global Seed Vault in Norway, which serves a totally different but just as critical purpose. It's the genetic ark for a world after the reset. Let's start with Denver. During its construction back in the early 90s, the project moved a staggering 110 million cubic yards of earth. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that is roughly 1/3 of all the earth they moved to build the entire Panama Canal. And remember, Denver is flat. So where did all that dirt go? The official story for all the delays, the massive budget overruns, and all that earth moving was a failed automated baggage system. But the theory argues this was just a multi-billion-dollar cover story for building a massive dam right under the airport. And then you add in the airport's famously creepy murals depicting extinction and gas-masked soldiers, plus that giant, terrifying blue horse statue with glowing red eyes that actually killed its own creator, and, well, you've got a place that's just steeped in sinister symbolism.
Okay, so now let's look at the genetic ark. The Svalbard Seed Vault is presented to all of us as this wonderful, benevolent doomsday vault. But when you look at who actually paid for it, a very different picture starts to emerge. The money comes from foundations and corporations that are the biggest players in the world of patented, genetically modified agriculture.
And this right here is the central contradiction. The source material basically calls this the ultimate fox guarding the henhouse situation. The very same groups accused of pushing patented, sterile GMO seeds and destroying natural crop diversity are the ones building a fortress to hoard all of the planet's original, natural, fertile seeds. The question is, why? And that brings us to the final part of this whole audit, the endgame. What is the ultimate strategic goal of building a subterranean empire and then hoarding the entire world's genetic source code?
The alleged 5-step plan is brutally simple. First, you engineer a global food crisis. Second, you replace the natural food supply with your own patented alternatives. Third, when the whole system inevitably collapses, the elite just retreat to their underground bases. Fourth, after the chaos up here dies down, they emerge from the ashes. And finally, the endgame. They come out holding a complete monopoly on the one thing that matters for rebuilding civilization, the original fertile seeds of the earth. They get to dictate the terms of survival to anyone who's left.
So, we end with the one question that's at the heart of this entire theory. It suggests a plan not to save the world, but to reboot it. And if that's really the case, the most important point isn't just that they're building an ark. It's what kind of world they plan to grow after the flood. And that is something worth thinking about.